All right, good morning, everyone. We do have 9 a.m. As you just heard, we're now recording. So this hearing is now in session. My name is Carl Granrath. I am the hearing examiner for the City of Spokane, and I also serve as the hearing examiner pro tem for Medical Lake. My assistant is Kimberly McIntyre. She's going to be acting as clerk for today's hearing. And again, just to reiterate, the hearing is being recorded. For the record, today is Wednesday, May 14th, 2025. It's about 9 a.m. We are located in the Medical Lake City Hall. The item scheduled to be heard at this time is a variance application with file number LU 2024-032 VA by Fox Ridge Homeowners Association to construct a monument sign in the center median of the North Fox Ridge Road right-of-way located at the intersection of North Graham Road and North Fox Ridge Road in Medical Lake, Washington, in the single-family residential zone. So to start with a summary of our process, we're going to start with a staff report from the planner for the city of Medical Lake, Ms. Eliza Rodriguez. So we'll provide an overview of the project and also context for further discussion and public comment. And I'll be asking questions during that portion as well. Next, we'll have testimony from the applicant, who is Mr. Carl Munson on behalf of the Fox Ridge Homeowners Association, along with any other witnesses that the applicant wants to call along with their presentation. Then we'll move to our public testimony portion of today's hearing. And when we get there, we'll go in the list that everyone signed up. I prioritize people who show up in person, and then we'll move to anyone who may be connected via Zoom. I'm gonna allow up to 5 minutes for each person, but I will do a hard stop at the 5 minutes. I have some discretion about how long to give for public comment. Based on the size of the crowd, I think 5 minutes is plenty. It usually ranges from 3 to 5 minutes. So I'll allow you up to 5 minutes, but I will put a hard stop in your testimony at 5 minutes. Following public testimony, both city staff and the applicant will have an opportunity to provide rebuttal testimony, answer questions, address concerns, anything they so wish. And at the conclusion of the meeting, as always, the final word goes to the applicant. So a couple of the preliminary matters. I did conduct a site visit this morning on our way here to City Hall. I'm generally familiar with the project and its surroundings. I have reviewed the file that's on staff, or that the staff provided, that's part of the record. So I am generally familiar with the proposal and the project site. My decisions are in writing, and so they're not going to be made at this hearing. Under the ordinance, I have 14 calendar days on which to complete my decision. My decisions on variances are final unless they are appealed to the Medical Lake City Council. A written appeal to the hearing examiner's decision must be filed to the City of Medical Lake within 10 working days from the date of hearing, or for the date of my final decision, and that information will be in my decision as well. So looks like we have about a dozen members of the public here today. So I'll go over some of these procedures again, but I'm going to have you state your name and address when you come up, and I'll have you swear an oath before you provide testimony. Other than that, do we have any other questions or administrative concerns before we begin?
No.
Okay. All right. Let's proceed with the overview by the planning department, Ms. Rodriguez.
Okay, so I'm going to summarize the staff report that was received by our hearings officer, and there was a copy at the entrance if anyone picked it up. Sorry, is the clicker working today, or you want to try? Mr. Granrath just went over the process from this day forward, so I will just back up a little bit. This application was submitted on December 20th, deemed complete on January 17th. The applicant asked to place a hold on the application at that time because he was going to be out of the country for a bit. So he came back and took the application off hold March 13th. And then we arranged for this hearing, and he mailed the notice of application to all property owners within 300 feet of the site. posted a sign on the site and published a notice of the public hearing in the Cheney Free Press. The comments period closed on May 7th, last Wednesday, and here we are at the public hearing. And one of these days this thing's gonna work, but not today. Okay, the vicinity map, the red circle represents the intersection of North Graham Road and Fox Ridge Road, which is the first intersection for the Fox Ridge and Fox Ridge South subdivisions heading from the south from Highway 902. Next, please. This is a zoom in on the site. We have the property lines from the Scout website. We have an aerial where you can see the road, the street that's in question has a grass median in the center. And on the right is the recorded plat, which is difficult to read at the scale. And I have another slide where it's zoomed in a bit, but essentially we are dealing with an 80-foot right-of-way for that first block, and the block is about 145 feet. Next slide. So this is a photo of the site, looking straight on, standing across Graham, looking at North Fox Ridge Road. That is the median in the center. It's approximately 10 feet wide. We have 5-foot sidewalks on each side, and the grass and trees, the landscaping on either side are in the public right-of-way. The edge of right-of-way is the fence line, or essentially so, on this site. Next slide. This is taken from the north, looking southeast generally at the intersection. So you can see the median and the curb stop line. The actual Graham Road is still a little further. It's out of the picture. So from the tip of that median to the intersection of Graham Road, it's a little over 30 feet. From the tip of the median to that stop bar is 12 to 15 feet. So the applicant is requesting a variance to allow a subdivision entrance monument sign to be allowed in the public right-of-way. Our municipal code states that they should be located on private property. If you could go back one slide, please. So the image on the right shows the Fox Ridge monument sign that's being proposed. And on the left is the site plan showing the sign, the monument sign in the median towards the west end of the median. And I want to point out at this time that the applicant in the proposal had 2 pillars on either side of the street as part of the drawings. Those are not being reviewed in this because they are not signs. They will require a permit from our Public Works Department to be built in the public right-of-way, but our code, our municipal code, does not speak to that directly. So we are only looking at the sign in the median today. Next slide, please. So the approval criteria. So I just want to take a moment. I know from citizens that have come in to speak with me and phoned that there's some contention in the neighborhood between the residents and the homeowners association. And I just want it to be clear that this decision is based on the approval criteria that is spelled out in our municipal code. And it is not a vote of the people. And if this variance is approved, it is not mandatory that this monument sign is built. That is still up to the homeowners association. So this variance, if it is approved, simply gives the right for the homeowners association to apply for a public works permit and building permit in order to construct this sign. So the approval criteria, which is complete in the staff report, here I've summarized. Number 1, the variance does not constitute the granting of a special privilege inconsistent with the limitations upon other properties. Number two, strict application of the zoning code is found to deprive the property of rights and privileges enjoyed by other properties. And three, granting the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in the vicinity. So to describe, we saw the photos earlier, but this sign is being proposed in the right-of-way of North Fox Ridge Road, which is the first entrance for the Fox Ridge and Fox Ridge South subdivisions when arriving from the south. The Fox Ridge Road has an 80-foot right-of-way at its entrance. There's a 10-foot wide median in the center, 32 feet back from the intersection. The site is surrounded by single-family houses to the southeast and north, with a vacant property across Graham Road that is zoned commercial. And as far as other subdivision entry signs in the city, we have two other entry signs that are boulders with the inscription on them. And both of those are located on private property, not in the right of way. So this is a closer depiction of the recorded plat. And the red circles show the right-of-way width. So the entry is an 80-foot right-of-way, 40 feet on each side from center. And the two other circles show 25 feet for each side, therefore 50-foot right-of-ways. And that is consistent throughout. This shows Fox Ridge South, but it is consistent through Fox Ridge. There's three entrances, all of them are 80 feet, and the rest of the subdivision has 50-foot right-of-ways. So something that I find unusual about this particular plat, because this is a recorded plat, is that these yellow areas labeled on the plat say 10-foot landscape area. I find this unusual because it's in the public right-of-way, and I honestly haven't seen that on a plat before. Plats oftentimes have tracks that will be commonly owned, or they will have easements on individual lots for the purpose of signage or landscaping. But in this instance, there are these noted landscape areas to either side. But as you can see in the photo on the right, what got built, we do have the landscaping on the sides, but we also have the median, which I found no documentation regarding this median and how it came about. So the next slide, this is not perfect, but basically I overlaid the plat and the aerial to show that it's pretty close, maybe not exact, but pretty close. The planting areas on either side behind the sidewalk do match pretty well the landscaping that exists. And then that median in the middle, it would not typically be shown on a plat. So it's just right of way. So I would not expect it to be there, but it is what got built. Next slide. Comments I received. The Medical Lake Public Works Department reviewed the plans and is not concerned about the proposed location or size of the monument. I received 3 written comments. Pop Smith sent an email expressing concerns of safety when it's slippery, noting that when we have snow, that intersection he considers to be dangerous and folks might slide towards the median. Ted Adams expressed discontent with how the HOA is spending their money and told Ted Olson submitted a petition with signatures of area residents opposing the sign. The findings, to summarize, you can see the complete findings in the staff report, but to summarize, the Medical Lake Municipal Code allows any subdivision to have an entry sign as long as it's not taller than 6 feet and it's located outside of the right-of-way. In this particular instance, the right-of-way for North Fox Ridge is 30 feet wider at the entrance, and there's no private property or easements that were set aside for landscaping, leaving only the public right-of-way for landscaping or signage. And so doing research in the preliminary plat, I was unable to locate the final plat file to see if there is any discussion, for instance, of the median that was developed. But I could only go on what was provided in our preliminary plat file. And there's very limited information regarding the entrance, and the landscaping. It was noted that there would be entrance landscaping, but past that, there wasn't any information. But based on the fact that they made this right of way larger, I think it is possible that they did that in order to provide for the landscaping, and then it would also provide for a landscape monument, although that was also never mentioned in any of the written documentation I could find in our preliminary plat file. And finally, the proposed sign being in the median, quite a distance back from the intersection, does not impede visual clearance for traffic. The recommendation is that the variance to locate the subdivision entrance sign as depicted in Exhibit A3 be allowed in the existing median of North Fox Ridge Road.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. I do have quite a few questions for you.
Yes.
I guess to try to figure out the best way to what order to ask them in. So, can you tell me a little bit more about the public works permit they're going to get to locate this in the right of way? Is it is there going to be any sort of legal agreement that's executed along with that, or what is are there conditions in the permit, etc.?
Right. So I am not party to the that's a public works permit, so I'm not involved in the review. But they do, if there's a maintenance agreement needed, they would require a maintenance agreement in order to have essentially a private construction in a public right of way.
Okay, so yeah, along with that, basically thinking about the scenarios, because you're not going to vacate the property, it's still going to be public right of way. It'll be a privately owned sign / structure in the median. So I'm wondering about future hypothetical situations. Say someone does slide and crash into it. How is the city approaching potential future liability? Or if the sign becomes dilapidated or the city wants to take the right of way back, change it, how the costs are apportioned, if that is being thought of ahead of time or going to be put into an agreement.
I believe that would be considered during the right of way agreement, or excuse me, the right of way permit.
And you don't have to disclose attorney-client communications, but did you consult your legal department about these types of scenarios?
We did not.
Okay, so I guess kind of keeping in that same vein a little bit. So it does. So okay, real quick. So you weren't able to find your internal file for the final plat, right? Was the final plat recorded?
It is recorded.
Okay. Were you able to take a look at that and see if there was any comments or conditions or alterations to that? Like,
I'm sorry. The plat itself was recorded. I did not find a decision. The city council minutes make the statement that it was voted and approved. And the final plat is signed by the city, including the mayor.
All right. So, I guess I sort of agree. There's some interesting aspects to the plat map, and I guess maybe agree with your assessment that it's perhaps maybe these should have been private tracks, or I guess we can only hypothesize at this point. So did you consider alternative measures to address this instead of a variance, say a plat alteration? If you think a mistake was made, then you could alter the plat, or a waiver, or there's other avenues to approach if you believe a mistake was made on the plat.
We didn't consider that a mistake was made on the plat. We thought it more likely that there were discussions and verbal agreements rather than written agreements by the parties at the time.
That's kind of just your best guess because you can't.
That's
really
our
find
best
it.
guess.
Okay.
Yeah. The people that were involved are no longer working for the city.
And again, I know you just said this, but you have no record of an agreement to build a median there.
That's correct. The homeowners association takes care of the landscaping in the right of way, including irrigation, and they have done so since it was constructed. But I have not been able to locate any formal agreement regarding that.
So then obviously then there's no right of way permit or anything from Public Works.
That's correct.
Originally. Okay.
That's correct.
Would a potential future agreement between Public Works and the HOA maybe try to resolve some of these and put to paper what's basically already existing on the ground?
That's certainly possible.
Okay, so I want to turn to the criteria of approval. Kind of dig into a couple of the key terms here. So for granting a special privilege, so we have in the code right now that you're just blanket not allowed to put signs in the right of way.
The
Subdivision signs.
subdivision entrance signs, that's correct.
Are there other ways that people can put signs in the public right of way, not subdivision signs, like business signs or political signs, anything like that?
There are situations, yes. Certainly political signs are allowed in the public right of way. Temporary signs, advertising events are allowed in the right of way.
How about for permanent signs? Does the city allow permanent signs in the public right of way?
I could not say that offhand.
So again, because you basically, this variance request is basically asking to just not apply this one city code provision in this particular situation. Do you think that there are special circumstances here that, I'm trying to think about how to phrase this question. I'll say frankly, this is a little bit of an odd request. Because of the various portions of this, HOA asking to use public right of way and to just basically not have a single code provision apply to them. How do you think this won't create, this isn't a special privilege that other subdivisions might want to use to put it, or they'll say, okay, you approved it for this one, you didn't apply a code provision to this subdivision, so we still can't do it. Or would you be comfortable with other subdivisions saying, well, you did it for this one, we should be able to also?
So in this instance, we're not changing the improvements at all. So the median exists. So it's unlikely that another subdivision, if they had this standard 50-foot right of way, would be, for instance, allowed to put a median in. Changing the improvements and changing the width of the traffic lanes. Having it on the sides of the right of way, adjacent to the sidewalk, that I really can't speak for our Public Works department on that one.
Is there a Public Works representative here today?
He's not.
Okay. Well, I do see the right of way is 80 feet wide, but there are it's hard to tell. is it 10-foot wide landscape areas? It kind of looks like it might be 15 feet on one side between the fence and the roadway edge.
It is approximately 10 feet on each side. The scout map is a little off, the two layers. But when I lined up the two, it is approximately 10 feet behind the sidewalk on each side to the edge of the right of way.
Okay. And how wide is the median again?
Approximately 10 feet.
So 80 minus roughly 30 is about 50. So you have about 50 foot of 225-foot lanes there right now, essentially. Okay.
On the sidewalk.
So if, just hypothetically speaking, if they weren't granted this variance, they're still, the homeowner association is still allowed to put a neighborhood sign somewhere, right?
On private property.
On private property. Did you consider whether there was reasonable alternatives on private property that wouldn't require a variance request?
We did not consider other alternatives.
Okay, so for the special circumstances, the criteria number 2, they don't have the language in here, but I'm sure you've seen different cities and different codes, like unnecessary hardship or some sort of, there's lots of different ways these are worded. But the language in here kind of goes along with that, where we're typically looking at, a homeowner owns a parcel, and we're going to look at the size, shape, topography, location, or surroundings, usually something physical to do with the site that's creating the hardship. And that's in state law and case law and stuff too. That if you apply, the strict provisions of the code to their property, then they're going to be deprived of being able to do something like, I have a really steep slope, I have a rock outcropping, I'm not going to be able to build a house on here unless you give me a setback. So how is this situation analogous to those more typical variance requests?
Right, I agree. That is exactly the description I would give an applicant if they were looking into a variance. In this situation, because it's not a private property, I took a little bit different view on that, which is whatever the agreements were at the time that created the 80-foot right-of-way, it basically eliminated the opportunity to put it in on private property. So the restriction is in fact the unusually large right-of-way.
And again, I don't see the language in here, so I guess it probably doesn't apply to your code, but usually there's some sort of provision that's like, has no fault of your, the applicant can't be the one who creates the hardship.
Yeah, that phrase is not in our code.
So you don't think that analysis should apply? It's not. Did you consider this is, this was someone's mistake a while ago, the creator of the subdivision, ostensibly maybe the HOAs, in some long-term connected ways fault, so to speak?
Yeah, because it's not part of the criteria, I didn't consider it.
And you think that not allowing them to build a sign in the right of way is depriving them of property, depriving the property, again, we're saying public property, but we're depriving the HOA of rights and privileges to build a sign? They can still build a sign.
Yeah, so that is the tricky part, and it all comes back to, from the information that I was able to gather from the files available, I think it is very possible that there was intention not necessarily for a sign, but definitely for enhanced landscaping, there was no, for instance, landscape plan, like detailed landscape plan in any of the files. There was only a landscape plan that showed like the 10-foot areas essentially, and also along Graham. So essentially all along Graham and then the two entries. And actually, I'm sorry, that was for Fox Ridge. There are two different subdivisions. So Fox Ridge, they did have a landscape plan, or not a plan, but just an area of landscaping showing all along Graham Road and the two other entries. Basically, that first block, the first 145 feet or whatever one lot depth is for those. So based on that whatever discussions happened in the past, that is so by not granting the variance deprives them of the normal privilege of having a sign that if the subdivision had been designed in a way that I would consider more typical, they would have the space. Like, for instance, if someone was doing a subdivision now, I would advise them to do a private tract rather than plan to put anything in the public right of way.
Is so in the subdivision sign part of the code, does it say anything about where it's supposed to be located?
Not specifically.
Just out of it's common right for it to be in the main road in and out, but it can be located in other places too, right?
Yeah, I mean it's called the entrance sign in our code. So
entrance sign. Okay, I think that's enough questions for now. If I have some more, I might bring you back up and ask them later, but I'm going to move over to the applicant. Thank you very much. All right. Okay, we have the applicant's opportunity for their presentation or testimony, and we have Mr. Carl Munson on behalf of the Fox Ridge Homeowners Association.
Well, this is fascinating listening to your questions, and I have to apologize to both of you. This is the first time, of course, I wouldn't be able to anticipate what was going to be asked.
Okay, real quick, can I have you go to the podium? There's some, just because we're being videotaped. And just have you identify yourself with your voice for the record.
Carl Munson, Medical Lake.
Okay, and do you swear or affirm any testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please proceed, sir.
Yesterday, I went door to door with some handouts, and I'm going to give you one, whether you need it or not.
Okay, I'll take a look at it, and then we'll enter it into the record with an exhibit number.
And what I said when I went to the doors, the people that I talked to was, I'm Carl Munson from down on East Angie. There have been some misunderstanding with regards to the proposed entry monument. I'm going door to door and presenting this handout. The first page contains answers to frequently asked questions. The second page shows where the design concept came from, and the third page has the site plan and elevation. Tomorrow morning, we're going to be having a meeting at City Hall at 9 o'clock, and you're certainly welcome to attend. And that's all I said. Some of the people were really interested, and one of those, well, it was actually a couple, Molly and Bob DeBolt, were actually the first president and secretary of the Homeowners Association. They invited me in, and we got to talking about this. And this is the part where I have to apologize to Lisa because I just didn't think of mentioning it. But I mentioned to them that the city was having a tough time finding all the records. And Molly said, oh, well, I've got them. she had kept all the records from when they were secretary and president of the first homeowners association. So Bob went into the bedroom and he came back out with some files and we started going over them. And, I don't remember too much, just a lot of words. But one thing that was originally proposed and not done was entry monuments at all three entrances. I mention this because it might be relevant, and I'm sorry I didn't mention it earlier. Okay.
Are these documents you have with you?
I'm sorry?
Do you have these documents with you?
No.
Okay. Is this something you could get
Yes.
for us? Okay.
Yes.
I'll consider that at the end, but I might leave the record open so that you can have those sent over, so I can, and Ms. Rodriguez as well, so we can review them before this decision too. So
yeah, that would be good.
Okay, continue.
Okay. I'll kind of explain how this all came about, and I'll try to keep it as short as possible. I was a commercial real estate appraiser for 50 years. I did my first appraisal of a subdivision in Linden in 1972. The value, as I recall, of the lot, sidewalks, curbs, gutters, all utilities, conduits, so on and so forth, was $3,250. That was then. The last appraisal I did was in Mukilteo. That was in 2022. Same scenario, no view. And the estimated value was $325,000. $325,000, of course, wouldn't wash in Medical Lake, where you can still buy a house for $325,000. But that's an indication of what was going on over there. I then retired. I won't get into the reasons why I moved to Medical Lake, but I found out about Medical Lake when US Bank sent me over here to do an appraisal of a proposed subdivision on Tulip Pond. And it was interesting. I saw tremendous potential for this area. You've got West Medical Lake, and all the other lakes. You've got multiple ponds. It's something of a waterland around here. But the only thing that I could see at that time that was really of significance was the Hallett home that was built in 1890. Not much had been done since then. Anyway, long story short, when Wendy and I decided to move over in this direction from Bellevue, I remembered that. I also remembered that at the time I did the appraisal, Medical Lake School District had the highest test scores of any school district in central and eastern Washington, just a little bit below Bellevue, Issaquah, and North Shore. That was impressive. Spoke well for the community. So when we decided to move over in this direction, because of that and because of the ambiance of the area and the proximity to the airport, I said, why don't we move to Medical Lake? So that's what we did. Now, having appraised hundreds of subdivisions and having bought in Fox Hill, I approached, this is about 3 years ago, the Homeowners Association president. And I said, why don't we have an entry monument? Because entry monuments increase value. That's not just value, but also absorption rate. I noticed in the mid to late 1980s, when I was doing subdivision appraisals, that you could take two subdivisions, which were essentially the same, and put a nice entry monument, not, just anything, but it has to be nice. And that would definitely enhance value. The degree to which it would enhance value depended on the number of lots, the location, and other intervening variables. But it always did. And I just kind of developed a rule of thumb of about 5% as far as the increase that it would enhance value. So I mentioned this to the Homeowners Association president, and he said that they had talked about it in the past, but no one would take the lead. Well, I brought it up. So I said, well, I'll do it. And then it's become quite an undertaking. First of all, I went down to Mutual Materials and asked for the names of 5 masons who would be good for this sort of a project. And I was given 5 names. I called all of them, two of them never did return my calls, and I can only speculate that it was because this project was just too small. And other two got back to me, but gave me bids that were indicative that, you know, if we're going to pay that much money, they'll go ahead and do it. But it was too much money. But Marty Bland of Bland Masonry was competitive and seemed to know what he was doing. He had done a number of entry monuments. He showed me one where it was a gated community. It was really beautiful. So I went with him. Then there was the question of the concept, and what I just gave you on the second page shows that. Then getting the design done, and during that process, I discovered that Mr. Bland does the masonry, but he does not do the excavation. So I had to find somebody that would do the excavation, and that took some time. I called a number of people that were recommended to me, and it wasn't until yesterday that I really got a firm number. And it was a very happy moment because the cost for the excavation was significantly less than what I anticipated it would be. So anyway, during that process, we also have to get a variance because of what you have been discussing. And I think that ultimately, based on my own experience, this entry monument would enhance value significantly. We have 180 lots in Fox Ridge. And I'm not going to say, you know, and the 5% applies to lot value, not the finished home value. But it's still, if you take 180 lots, and I'm not going to say what market value is, my professional designation does not allow me to speculate unless I've actually done an appraisal. But I can say that the assessor's value for the vast majority of lots in Fox Ridge is $80,000. And if you take $80,000 times 180 lots, and my memory isn't always the best, but I think that's about $14,400,000. 5% of that is a very high number. Even if you just go with 2% of that, it's way above the cost, which will be under $30,000 for the entry monument. So I think this is a very feasible project. It does not preclude doing other things that are necessary within the subdivision, and it will not raise homeowners association fees, so on and so forth, the things that people worry about, and I answer in this handout. Did you have any further questions for me?
Yeah, I guess I just want to follow up on the documents you saw at your neighbor's house. If you remember seeing anything in there about entry monuments.
Yes.
Do you remember what it said, or?
Just that they were proposed and as is evident, never done.
Well, without knowing what it says, it's, I guess, I don't want to speculate too much, but it's possible it might be approved in those documents. So I would really like.
It might be, yeah.
Really like
I forgive me, I didn't realize how important that moment was.
Well, I guess I'll just say now, before we go on with the rest of the hearing, that I am going to request that you get those documents over to us so we can review them. So I'm going to keep the record open at the end of today's hearing so that we can get those documents. I guess I'll just say, for the record, I'm only keeping it open for that purpose. I may keep it open for other reasons at a later time, but I'm going to request that you send Ms. Rodriguez and us a copy of those documents, or you can send them to her and she can forward them to us, whatever's easier for you.
Well,
we can get you that contact information at the end of the hearing.
I think what I'll do is ask Lisa to come with me, and we'll go out and go through them.
Okay.
One by one.
I think that's a very good idea. So I think that's all the questions I'm gonna have for you right now. Something might come up again from the public comments, and you'll have an opportunity to, come back up and give rebuttal testimony too. If I remember any other questions I have for you, I'll be sure to bring it back up and ask them of you. But thank you for your testimony. I'm gonna move us to public comments.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so just to go over real quick, for those who signed up, I'm just going to go through the list I have, and then I'll check and see if there's anyone on Zoom who wants to testify. I'm going to call you in order you're on here. I'll have you come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and then I'll have you swear an oath before you provide testimony. As I stated before, you'll have up to 5 minutes. Because that's a little longer than usual, we are going to do a hard stop at 5 minutes. So just to prepare you, if you're hitting the 5-minute mark, we cut you off. Please don't be offended, but it's for the purposes of us keeping this hearing moving forward in an orderly fashion. So first I have Ted Adams. Hey, just state your name and address for the record, please.
Ted Adams, address is North 1112 North Olson.
Okay, and do you swear or affirm any testimony you give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
It is, sir.
All right, please proceed.
First, when this came about, I saw the sign. I approached Ted Olson with a lot of concerns about this. And it's interesting that this showed up at my house last night while I was gone. As you can see, I made a whole bunch of notes on it. And it's great that Mr. Munson gave us whole history of how he ended up here. I could give that whole spiel. Last night, I actually had that spiel ready. But when I got over to Ted Olson's house this morning, he said, I can only argue about the variance. Well, this is all great. The one thing that hasn't been addressed is there hasn't been any comment, letters, anything regarding fire code, fire access, nothing like that. Now, there was a gentleman that brought up the concern about vehicles sliding into the median. I can testify that a couple of years ago on Christmas Day, I was heading to a friend's house for Christmas. I actually slid up onto the median because the lack of proper care of the roads. So that is a huge concern that has not been addressed. Now, the city planner states that she believes that the medians were made possibly for that. That's speculation. I find it interesting that now, all of a sudden, once there's been pushback about this proposed HOA monument, that now it's coming to light that, oh, magic papers have appeared. But yet, if it were me, I would have had them here to present to you, sir. Just for the fact that we know that they exist, they're here. I understand and respect that you're leaving it open for you to review, but I would call into question if that is really the proper way that this should have been perceived. Again, I really would like to have argued a lot of the points on this note, but unfortunately, I'm not going to. I do feel that this is a joke because it has been put the carriage before the horse. This HOA board should have voted on this prior to getting to this point. Thank you for your time, sir. I appreciate you hearing me out.
Thank you, sir. All right, Connie Olson.
Connie Olson, 810 East Collin Avenue.
Okay, and do you swear or affirm any testimony you'll give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please proceed.
I know this is only for a variance, but I was a school bus driver here in Medical Lake for 25 years. And in any other given time, there may be plenty of room to come around there. And that's if you're going, you have to know how to get around it. You go slow. Well, not everybody goes slow. And then you have to account for the ice and the pileup of snow everywhere. And the amount of traffic going in and out of there in the winter, it doesn't provide a lot of room for buses to maneuver through there. You can get around there very slowly, but when you're talking about a huge piece of equipment on ice, we all know that you don't know you're not going slow enough until you aren't, until you hit the middle. it does really concern me just because we've seen things go wrong there. They're talking about the way the way they turn and stuff, and maybe no, a wheel doesn't go on there, but when it turns, the wheel is under the bus. The front part of the bus goes over the top of that. And my husband observed that this morning with one of the buses coming around the corner. Other than that, I just don't have anything more to say, being it's only a variance, but when I found out about this, I was totally incensed, only because I don't want to be divided from the rest of the town and have a monument. Is it beautiful? Absolutely. Do most of the people up there want it? No, they don't. This is a rocky area around here. We've seen a few monuments, if you call them that. I don't want to be exclusive. We love our neighborhood and we just want it to be safe for everybody. But this was kind of all just done with nobody knowing about it except for the president and Mr. Munson. As far as I know, I didn't see any information that this was going to take place. Would we like information? Would we like to be involved in the picking of such signage? So other than that, I mean, I've got a lot to say about it, but as far as a variance, I'm not quite sure that's a good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Wendy Munson.
Can you hear me from here, or do I need a
The
microphone?
microphone's
Oh,
above you.
good.
It should be okay.
Thanks. Hard for me to stand.
Would you state your name for?
Wendy Munson,
Okay.
and some kind of oath?
Yeah. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Please proceed, ma'am.
So I actually am a former planner with the Monroe County in New York Planning Commission and Planning Department, and with the California Coastal Commission, and with the City of Seattle. And so I have some background in planning and variances, etc. Also, as I understand it, this is the variance is what we're here for today. This is a variance on a public right of way, and the criteria are in comparison to other subdivisions, not in comparison to properties within 300 feet. It's an awkward situation. Where do you send the notice? You know, actually, technically, you might send the notice to any subdivisions within 300 feet of the boundary of this subdivision. It's difficult to know, and it's certainly more interesting to the people in the subdivision, but it actually is in regard to what effect would it have in regard to other subdivisions? Is that correct? I don't know. I mean, that's what I understood with Elisa. And so what impact would it have in terms of perhaps future subdivisions or existing subdivisions in terms of your decision? And so, as I think it was mentioned in one of your questions, how would it affect others' right of ways? And it doesn't seem like there are any other, because now when somebody would do a subdivision, they would be asked, where is your tract for a common area? So that wasn't, and maybe it was, and that's what we're going to find out apparently, because when my husband went around the other night, last night, probably about 6 o'clock, found out this really interesting information. And this is all part of a public process, so it's nothing conspiratorial. Now, as far as the President Dana of the board, he's been putting this out for at least 3-4 years in the minutes of the HOA that we're thinking of a monument, and in all of the newsletters, and that's how it came up. And anybody who attended those meetings would know about this, just as not part of your issue, but this is well known. So that's how he was always asking, does somebody want to research this? So this is not news. And also all these issues, which may be important, are public works issues. And those should be handled by the permit process through the Public Works Department, which has to happen after a variance is decided upon one way or another. So that's just a technicality, but it's an important one. It's a chicken and egg thing, a horse before the cart. You have to do something first. Unfortunately, my husband had to spend 2 years of his life figuring all this out. But that's neither here nor there. That's a risk we take. But it was well known to everybody. Nothing sprung upon anybody if they were looking at their newsletters or minutes. I know I'm running out of time. So fire code, all those are public works issues. And by the way, in terms of intent, why would the HOA pay all these years to water and put sprinklers in on this particular tract if they didn't intend to have some HOA use of that tract and the other two? That's a lot of money over the years. And that's on the public right of way as a donation to the city. And they must have had some kind of agreement. Nobody goes out and spends that kind of money every year on these. This is the variance issue. Why on earth would we be doing that if it weren't that we had some kind of interest in it and some kind of formal agreement? If you look at the old CCNRs for the first part, it does say as part of approval of this agreement, we agreed to actually take care of the subject outside on Graham Road, take care of that landscaping. And that's not part of every CCNR because there were 5 different tracts. And it's very complicated, as Elisa knows. She's spent her life the last few months trying to figure this out. And these papers, which he did not know about, there's no conspiracy here. He just found out last night. And it's a good thing. This is a public process. We didn't know. Mr. Olson got concerned. He went around and rallied the troops. And so now we know more. And we wouldn't have known this if my husband hadn't gone around to try to find out what people did know or didn't know. So there we go. And so this is part of the public process. It's nothing that anybody should be concerned about. We're finding information.
Fine.
Okay, thank you. Well, perfectly timed.
You have any questions?
Oh, no, thank you. Okay, Ted Olson.
Morning, Ted Olson, 810 East Collin Avenue, Medical Lake, Washington.
Okay, and do you swear or affirm any testimony you'll give me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Very true.
All right, please proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, and I want to thank you for affording me the time to speak on the Fox Ridge variance. And I'm speaking for myself as an unofficial representative of the homeowners at Fox Ridge Developments. 2 major reasons not to approve the variance. Number 1 is the monument could be harmful to the public welfare. I've lived in this development for 10 years. I've lived in the Medical Lake area for 32 years and been a resident of Eastern Washington my entire life. Because of poor driving, or because of poor drainage, winter snow and ice form around the median. Every winter, at least one person slides into that median, me included. It's solid ice, there's no way for it to drain. And if we add snow to the problem, it makes it even more hazardous. A wheel alignment cost is much less than a crash into a proposed monument. I've been a school bus driver, a substitute school bus driver for Medical Lake for the last 9 years. In a 40-foot school bus, that corner, Graham Road and Fox Ridge Road, is difficult to manage in the best of conditions. Although I have never hit a curb of median, the front of the bus usually sticks out into the median to avoid the back tires on the passenger side from going over the median, over the curb. At this time, I'd like to read a short statement from Catherine Bliven. She operates the position of driver trainer, and she's a long-standing member or driver in the Medical Lake School District. Having both trained drivers in Medical Lake and been specifically contracted to the Fox Ridge route for at least 2 years, I would like to state it is my personal opinion that having any type of monument in the median at the entrance to Fox Ridge could definitely be a distraction or a hazard to drivers. This is one of the most precarious turns I make in Medical Lake with a bus due to the combination of the angle you approach the street from Graham Road and the maneuvering you have to do onto the street without running into the median. This is particularly precarious in the winter months where there is snow on the ground. It is my belief that it is not an optimal location for a seemingly unnecessary and visually obstructing object of any sort. Thank you for your consideration. That's Catherine Bliven. I also spoke with my boss, and this week, unfortunately, I had to take the morning off to come here. They are very shorthanded, and the State Patrol is inspecting all the buses. So otherwise, my boss would have been here also to testify the same thing that I'm testifying to. And as my wife pointed out, this morning, I watched a bus go around the corner because I took some pictures at the bottom of the hill for another purpose. And I saw bus number 28 come around the corner nice and smoothly. And his back tires did not hit the curb. His front tires did not hit the median, but the front of the bus stuck over into the median that far. It would have hit any monument that was there. One more item is worth mentioning. There are 2 utility access covers between the median and Graham Road. And having worked as an equipment operator my life for Washington State, I can tell you that the median of the proposed monument would be in jeopardy if there's any digging that has to be done there. And I was also told by a city maintenance worker that there's possibly a water main line in the proximity of where the proposed monument is going to be. And we all know that these things break once in a while, and I also have 2 more pictures. Can you bring those pictures up, please? Thank you. I took 2 pictures this morning for your consideration.
We'll enter this into the record.
Please. Now, the one shows the sewer line, which is just a couple of feet right in front of the median. The other picture shows a water line, which is further out, but that's a different water line. If you go back to the bigger one where the sewer line is right there, you'll notice a crack in the asphalt, just slightly behind about where this monument is proposed. And this is where the speculation lies, and I don't know for sure yet, but they said there's probably a big main water line that goes underneath right there.
You can finish your thought, but that is your time.
Okay. I think that's all I had anyway, so that was perfect timing. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else present here who didn't sign up who wishes to testify? You do, sir? I'll get you to come up and you can say your name for the record, then I'll have you sign up on here as well. You can sign it, write your name down after you're done testifying.
Thank you. My name is Scott Quigley, and I live in that area on Tara Lee Boulevard at the top of the hill. It's 1012 is the actual address.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please proceed.
So I had a couple of comments that came about from other people making comments. One of those comments was that the signage, the monument, that it was going to be at the primary entrance. Because of where I live on Tara Lee, I'm able to see a lot of the traffic that goes up and down that street. And had I known I was actually gonna speak today, I might have gone out there yesterday and counted cars. So I don't have an official count. I just know it's a lot because every time they come up, the lights shine right in the windows of our house. So there are at least what I would think 3 primary entrances, and so we're leaving with this proposal and what's being talked about today. We're actually leaving 2 of those entrances out of consideration. And then I just wanted to say I have, excuse me, I have opportunities to go to the homeowner association meetings, and someone said, "Oh, gosh, it's been on the agenda many times, and we talk about plenty of opportunity for all the homeowners to have heard that information." I disagree. I'm a homeowner, and I've been to some of the meetings. Not didn't make it to every single one of them, but to many of them. But I suspect that somewheres, because there's always an agenda, there's a written agenda that must be a document that we could probably easily lay our hands on to see, in fact, if everybody did have as much opportunity as we're leading ourselves to believe. So that's all I have to say, and I'll sign the.
Yes, please. Thank you. Is there anyone else who's present here who wishes to provide testimony?
David, can you speak to this issue? Do you have the list of the, you said you're going to bring that list of all the.
Some that this was applied to the variance issue. It's more for our HOA issue.
Well, but how often have we had it?
All right, yeah. I'll circle back if he changes his mind before I close public comments. I'll consider it. But is there anyone on Zoom is there anyone even connected to Zoom?
Our city administrator.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I just need to speak.
All right, sir. So I am about to close public comment. So now will be the last chance if you want to give public comment.
I just wanted to corroborate my statement that there have been many. Can you corroborate that statement I made?
We'll have you state your name and address for the record, and I'll have you sign.
Dana Dvorak. I live at 1006 Fox Ridge Road, Medical Lake.
Okay, do you swear or affirm any testimony you give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead.
Just as per the incidents of opportunities that have been put out there, the putting in this monument has been something. I started living in the HOA in 2010. I got involved with the HOA board in 2011 when Webb Properties had been hired as our management company because I felt like I needed to be involved with that particular thing. I had never been on a board before, dealt with an HOA before in any kind of capacity, but I know that there have been many meetings. When we had Webb Properties, we did quarterly meetings up to the point just before COVID, when 2019, when we closed out the contract for Webb Properties. But during several of those meetings over the years, it had been brought up by homeowners suggesting that we need to look into getting a monument placed out there. People discuss different various types and, big boulders and whatnot. In 2019, when we got rid of Webb Properties and I started doing the majority myself, Nicole Richards, Glenn was on the board for a while. Ted had been on the board for a while. Monica, there's a number of folks in our neighborhood. Those items had been brought up in a number of meetings, but as she said, a lot of times they never went anywhere because the HOA is all voluntary. I don't know anything about like the procedure of what he went through to get us to this point. The best I would have been able to do is go out and try to get an estimate on what it would cost for the monument itself. But nobody ever picked up the project and carried it forward. So it kept getting mentioned here and there at the meetings since I had taken over. And I send out a newsletter or brief on specific things for that particular quarter when I send out the quarterly invoices for the HOA dues to homeowners, whether it be by email or by mail more recently. And it doesn't list a lot of information regarding it, but it would be, hey, we're continuing to look at moving forward with this. We found out this, our annual meeting in 2024, Carl had come to the meeting to give an update on it. He had started working on it in 2022, 2023 timeframe with going out and talking to people here and there. It wasn't like a fast-paced project that we're trying to get done immediately, but it has been put out there. Invites are sent to every homeowner for the annual meeting. We typically get about 12 people that actually show up, and that probably constitutes actually about 7 homes because usually husband and wife will come. I don't know what else to say about
Well,
it.
thank you, Dana.
For the variance portion.
You sent me 6 messages that showed it. That's all I wanted to say.
I do have copies of like some of the meeting minutes that do have references on them.
I'll take a look. I might not admit this to the
That-
record,
that's
but I'll
fine.
take a look and see whether I should or not.
There's an agenda for the 2024 meeting in there. One of the newsletters that I sent out most recently in December for the first quarter 2025 dues, that each of those have a mention of the monument project or the update to be given by Mr. Munson at the meeting for 2024, those types of instances.
Thank you, Dan. I just wanted to prove that.
Wait,
I had-
Yeah, ma'am, I'm sorry, your public comment portion is over. I appreciate bringing these, but I don't think I'm gonna bring it to the record.
Right.
But thank, no, it's okay. Thank you very much.
Did you sign in here?
All right, that is going to conclude our public comment portion of today's hearing. We're going to move back to an opportunity for both Ms. Rodriguez and Mr. Munson to provide rebuttal testimony. Ms. Rodriguez, do you want to make any comment?
I just wanted to offer, since you're intending to leave the record open, that I could contact the school district. I haven't gotten comment at this point, but I could contact them to see if they would like to make written statement regarding their position on school buses.
Okay,
Here, back here.
Oh, sorry, I was making the offer to contact the school district to get an official statement on their position regarding school buses in this particular intersection.
Okay, yes, and actually I was gonna discuss this because we don't have, we did get your comment, I think, Monday from the Public Works. Fire access was brought up, so maybe a comment from the fire department would be appropriate as well.
I can contact them also. and get a
So I'm gonna direct you, ask, I guess, and leave the record open for you to submit comments from I guess the school district or whoever is responsible for the
School
buses.
district and fire district 3, yes.
Okay, make sure we get those comments on the record, and anyone else you might think is appropriate to have their comments on the record. Please request comments from them.
Will do.
And then I'm also gonna ask if you can retrieve for the record a copy of the final plat and any documents that were recorded with it, so we can have that on file and I can take a look at that and maybe compare it to whatever we're able to get from the applicant or one of the neighbors. So I can take a look and see if there's any differences in the final plat as well. So Anything else from you?
No, thank you.
Okay. I'll go over this at the end to make it official about what I'm leaving the record open for. So thank you. Mr. Munson, any rebuttal testimony? And then I think you're going to get the last word also. So we'll make this your opportunity to provide for further testimony, and then you can have a final word on your application.
As far as placement of the proposed entry monument, we took into consideration that there might be some problem with overlap. The distance between the edge of the front of the entry monument, the center island and the entry monument is 14 feet. So we really shouldn't have too much trouble there as far as, unless, somebody just plows into it. With regards to utilities, obviously, we would check with Avista to make sure that we weren't disrupting anything. I will say the statement was made that everybody is opposed to this. I took yesterday north at Tarhali. They were all very much in favor of it. So, and that I kind of understand the reason for that, but I won't get into that now. Thank you.
Okay, and just real quick, have you stay up here. So I am gonna request that you, I know I already said this, but just to have it official on the record, I'm gonna request that you try to retrieve whatever documents it is. Is it possibly a final approval decision for the final plat, or is it, do you remember off the top of your head what the documents
I don't
are?
remember off the top of my head, but that's very probable. She had a lot of stuff.
Okay, I guess I'll ask you to be over-inclusive. If it turns out it's not really relevant to me, that's fine. We'll just make it part of the record. So whatever you can get that is part of the final plat decision, any associated agreements, please make sure you get those, and we'll get those into the record, and I will review them.
Sure, I will do that.
Okay, and then one final question. I know this is probably more at permit time, but can you say for the record where you're intending along the median to put the monument sign if it were approved? At the front, at the back, in the middle? 14
feet from the front.
14 feet from the front of the start of the median.
Yeah, and I know that if you took out the 3.5 feet depth of the median, there'd be about 85 feet left in the center island.
Okay. So again, that's if approved, that's something that probably would be addressed in that permitting process. Okay. All right. Any final word on your application?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you all for coming today and testifying. As I stated before, but just for my own legal purposes, I want to make sure this is really clear on the record. I'm leaving the record open only for the specific purposes I've outlined before. I'll state them again, but this is not there will be no other opportunity for public comment or submittal of comments. I am only leaving it open for the things I requested from the city, which are some comments from possibly affected departments. Make sure we have their written comments on the record, at least at this time. Fire department and school district and anyone else, Ms. Rodriguez reasonably determines should be contacted, as well as I've directed her to get a copy of the final plat and any other recorded documents that may shed some light on this. And then as well as I've directed the applicant to submit any of the records he says he located yesterday that have to do with approval of the final plat. Other than those specific items, no other documents or comments will be admitted to the record. So for the rest of the record, it's closed, remaining open for those limited purposes.
And staff presentation.
Yes, and also thank you for the administrative matter. So the staff presentation will also be made a part of the record. So it is open for that item as well until we receive it. Other than that, any other administrative matters?
No.
Anything else from the city?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you with that. I'm going to close the hearing and we are now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.